Paul Brunton explains the world's perennial wisdom. Metaphysical Enquiry as a Spiritual Practice. Video Series 4, Video Number 5. Presented by the Paul Brunton Philosophic Foundation. The quoted passages are from Paul Brunton's writings. Paul Brunton Philosophic Foundation board members contributed the rest. In his two masterworks, The Hidden Teaching Beyond Yoga and The Wisdom of the Overself, Paul Brunton offers a practical and balanced, quote, path to self-realization and philosophic insight, unquote. These books provide extensive intellectual grounding for spiritual aspirants searching for the truth about self, world, God, and life's purpose. And most important, like a catalyst, they systematically prepare the student for the realization of the Overself, our true self. Paul Brunton explains the power of this practice. Quote, "The metaphysics of truth is set out here in such a way that students believe they are proceeding step by step purely by logical deduction from ascertainable facts, that their reasoned thinking upholds the findings of transcendental experience, whereas not only are they doing this, but at the same time are proceeding upon a path which conforms to their own latent insight. It kindles a higher intelligence in its students. Consequently, the sense either of sudden or of growing revelation often accompanies their studies." The authentic metaphysics of truth can bring them close to the mystical experience of reality. Then, the trigger pull, which will start the experience moving, need only be something slight, perhaps a printed, inspired sentence, perhaps just a single meeting with one who has learned to live in the Overself, or perhaps a climb in the mountains. For then, the mind becomes like a heap of dry wood, needing only a spark to flare up into a blazing pile. The close attention to its course of thought then becomes a yoga path in itself, unquote. The central axis of Paul Brunton's metaphysical view is that mind is the real. Everything else is the functioning, the activity, the expression of mind. As Brunton unfolds the universe of experience for us, he explicates how, quote, reality is continuous with its appearance, unquote. This rigorous non-duality also informs the progression of individuals from their nascent sense of separate existence to the recognition of their inseparability from the one reality. With this transcendental insight, quote, they will know reality and know it too as their own ultimate being, indestructible and ever-existent. Amid the most prosaic surroundings, deep in the core of their own heart, there will be perfect calm for themselves and goodwill for all others, unquote. This hidden teaching of mentalism has been known throughout history by philosophic sages. It is gaining modern acceptance through quantum physics, shining its scientific light on the truth of this doctrine. Quote, "In all my research, I have never come across matter. To me, the term matter implies a bundle of energy which is given form by an intelligent spirit," unquote. Max Planck, a founder of quantum physics. Aspirants need the glasses of mentalism provided by this teaching to help see through the distorted ideological mist of duality that so often surrounds them. As Brunton explains, quote, "By mentalism I mean simply this, that all things in human experience, without exception, are wholly and entirely mental things. Unquote. This way of experiencing and understanding life is so contrary to our ingrained ordinary dualistic thinking that equates mind with brain. However, by following PB's careful step-by-step analysis, our materialistic attitudes will transform, and we can be free from the suffering experienced in self-limiting views. Quote, "This study causes you to forget yourself, to turn aside from your little ego, and thus helps to clear a path to discovery of your overself." Unquote. Without this knowledge, we are like travelers in a strange land who are ignorant of our whereabouts, unprovided with a map, and unguided by one who knows the way. Quote, "This metaphysical effort is essential for training yourself to think correctly about the overself, for arriving at the firm conviction that such an ultimate reality does exist, and for encouraging it to take up the practical quest of ultra-mysticism. Once the latter quest has been successfully realized, the metaphysical effort again becomes useful when sages seek to communicate to others a precise report and accurate explanation of their own grand experience." Unquote. Quote, "If you will constantly think about these metaphysical truths, you will develop in time the capacity to perceive them by direct intuition instead of by second-remove reflection. But to do this kind of thinking properly, the mind must be made steady, poised, concentrated, and easily detached from the world." Unquote. Quote, "From all these metaphysical studies, you will derive, even without seeking it, a lofty tranquility and a noble impersonality. Therefore, this is also a holy path." Unquote. Quotes were taken from The Hidden Teaching Beyond Yoga and The Wisdom of the Overself, and the Notebooks of Paul Brunton, Volume 5, Part 2, The Intellect, and Volume 13, Part 2, What is Philosophy? Paul Brunton, 1898 to 1981, a best-selling British author of a dozen books, spent much of his early life researching the original sacred teachings of Western and Eastern spiritual traditions. He traveled the world to discover and communicate with Christian, Kabbalistic, Vedantic, Buddhist, Taoist, indigenous, and Sufi masters. Blending the richness of his own spiritual experience and inquiry with these ancient and contemporary teachings, he developed a philosophy and path of practice that suits life in the 21st century, one that expresses the greatest wisdom and love available to humankind. Regardless of how it is named, we each have a divine soul, an overself or higher self, that is with us here and now, waiting to be realized. Paul Brunton's writings are a source of deep spiritual guidance for all those interested in living a divinely inspired life.